Hello, it's Crystal and here with Emerson Aurora Design, and today I'm going to show you how I made this glitter swirl zebra and leopard peekaboo print tumbler. Let's get started. So I'm going to make two different versions of this tumbler, the same exact style on both. One is a shaker tumbler and one is a 30-ounce curve. I'm using some various neon colored glitters that I have in my collection. You can see them there. I'm just choosing different pretty rainbow colors to put on this tumbler. This will be a peekaboo. I've already sanded and washed and spray painted both of my tumblers white. I covered the threads on that tumbler to the right with some electrical tape before I spray painted to keep the threads their normal stainless. I do have a thin layer of epoxy on this tumblers. Probably use about 10 mLs, 10 to 15 mLs for this style because I am using some chunky glitters and I feel like it catches those glitters better. So I'm not going in with any specific pattern. I'm just doing little blobs kind of the colors just to get a nice mix. This will end up kind of swirling together a little bit and I'm perfectly fine with that. Some of these glitters are fine cut, some of them are chunky mixes and medium cut. I just chose them mostly for the pretty color. Try not to use ones that are too incredibly chunky so that I can get a nice smooth finish for my peekaboo. I try not to make my peekaboos too thick with glitter, the chunky glitters, because then they require a lot more layers of epoxy to cover those and make them nice and smooth before your peekaboo. But you can do what you like. What I normally do is I'll lay down my thinner cut glitters, my finer cut glitters, and the medium cut glitters, and then I'll go in with just a very light random sprinkling of a pretty opal chunky. That's what I've been doing lately, and my peekaboos are a lot lighter than they used to be. Some of these glitters, like that pink that you see, is more of a translucent. I base color my tumblers with white because I feel like it helps my colors to really pop. So I am going to go in with like 2 layers. Once I lay down this kind of base layer of glitter, I'll go back immediately after and add a little bit more glitter on top of each color to make it brighter and less transparent, if that makes sense. These tumblers are so easy to make and they just really have a really pretty outcome. So if you haven't tried a peekaboo before, I highly suggest giving it a try. It's so much fun. Once I'm done putting my glitters down, I will let these tumblers turn and let that epoxy cure fully. And then I go in with probably about at least 2 more coats of epoxy to cover that glitter and get a nice smooth finish before I move on to my peekaboo. As that glitter sinks down into the epoxy, and since I have a little bit more epoxy than normally would for a glitter, the epoxy glitter method, the colors will kind of blend in with each other a little bit, but you'll still be able to see the specific colors. So this is the next day and I'm going in and putting another coat of epoxy directly over that glitter. I'm going to show this because I want to show you how incredibly gorgeous this glitter is under epoxy. I have metallics, I have holographic, there's like the pink is like an opalescent kind of pink tinted one. They're just absolutely beautiful. So I'm just putting a thin layer of epoxy over the glitters to have a nice smooth surface. And you can see how nicely that glitter did lay flat using just a little extra epoxy in the first go round. I will put another layer of epoxy over these to make sure that these cups are nice and smooth before we move on to the next step. I'm going to use my torch to pop the bubbles. I do this with every tumbler. And now I'm going to add that thin layer of opalescent chunky glitter. I have Mr. City by Mr. Noah's Glitter and Opal Me Please by the Glitter Chimp. I'm just randomly sprinkling that chunky on the tumbler just to give it a little extra sparkle, but not enough to make it be too chunky to where I need to put extra layers of epoxy on, if that makes sense. Just a little bit of added bling to peek through that peekaboo. And there's my dog again in the background drinking his water. I apologize. So here's a couple days later. I did apply 2 more coats of epoxy, and I'm going to put my stencil on for my peekaboo. So I found a zebra SVG on my Cricut Design Space, and I just measured it out for the width and the height of the tumbler, and I cut it to be like a swirl. I want the zebra to be in like a swirl around the tumbler. And here I'm using removable vinyl. This is my removable vinyl that I use for all my templates, and I laid that out, and it does need a little extra on each end, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to piece it with my extra here, and you'll see me do that. I'm just trying to match those lines up as best that I can. And you can do this for any tumblers. For these, they're easy because zebra stripes are pretty organic, I guess. You know, they don't have to be perfectly straight, and you can just kind of follow the curve that you placed the template. Since this is going to be a peekaboo, it's okay to overlap them. Just make sure that you really rub down the lines, the vinyl, so that you get a nice seal. Right now the tumbler has been sanded, so it's not as shiny as it will be once it's finished. I did sand it down to get a nice smooth finish. I'm just taking my razor knife and going along the edge. This vinyl is really easy to cut. I just literally hold the blade down and kind of rock it back and forth to get a nice cut on that removable vinyl, so it's a nice straight edge. And I'm just trimming at the top the same way I did at the bottom, using my sharp razor blade and just kind of holding it down and cutting that vinyl on a straight edge. So there's the zebra. And now I'm going to peel back my leopard print. I'm going to put the leopard print down on each side, the rest of the tumbler there. I included this because it's just satisfying to watch. When I do my peekaboos, I do cut with a removable vinyl. It makes the process so much easier with removing your vinyl later for the peekaboo. Highly recommend it. You can use stencil vinyl also, but I don't really like stencil vinyl. It's clear, and sometimes I have a hard time seeing where my stencil is, so that's why I like to use a funky color removable vinyl. So I'm just taking my transfer sheet and cutting little strips. I'm not going to place this whole vinyl image at once. I'm going to piece it in because it is a curved tumbler and it's less hassle if I do it in little sections like this. Then I'm just going to lay that down and press them down and space those leopard prints, leopard spots wherever I like to have them. I want as much of that glitter to show through the peekaboo as possible because it's absolutely gorgeous. So I don't really like to cover up too much of my glitter. So I'm just getting as many spots on there as I can while making it still look good. I'm going to use my my transfer sheet here, and then I'll go in and I'll piece other spots in where I need them when I'm done with this part. So now I have all my leopard spots on, and the next step will be to spray paint. I'm using this black semi-gloss 2x from Rust-Oleum. You can use semi-gloss, you can use matte, whatever you prefer, it does not matter. So once that's sprayed on and dried, I'm going to go in and peel up all of my peekaboos. This is my favorite part because you get to see the beautiful glitter underneath. You can see how easy this removable vinyl is to peel. It doesn't leave any sticky residue on the areas where you're peeling up, which is a plus. So it does help cut down on possibly getting any fish eyes later when you apply your epoxy. And once I'm done peeling up all of my vinyl, you can seal this if you want with clear spray paint or quick coat. I actually don't usually seal my tumblers after this part unless there is a sticky residue, but you can do it if you need to. It won't hurt anything. I just usually go in with my epoxy once I'm finished with this step. As I peel up this vinyl, I realize the glitter is just looking prettier and prettier with each piece of vinyl I peel up. I absolutely love these tumblers. Be careful when you're using your little weeding tool. You don't want to accidentally scratch your spray paint. If you do accidentally slip and scratch your spray paint, you can go in with a little paintbrush and just kind of, color that paint back over the scratched area. I find that if I take my sharp reading tool and kind of poke it into the actual vinyl, I have less chance of scratching it across the surface of the spray paint. Look how pretty that is. So just jumping ahead here, I'm almost finished. Look how beautiful that glitter looks underneath with that black design on top. You can kind of see the opal chunkies shining through. When I show you the tumbler, it'll be easier to see it here in just a minute, just to give it a little extra sparkle. And I really love the way this glitter looks underneath that peekaboo. I did put 2 layers of epoxy over top of this tumbler, let them cure completely with a nice sanding layer in between, and here she is all finished. I absolutely adore this tumbler. I think it's so much fun for summer, and you could put a decal on it. You could say Wild Thing or whatever you want. I hope you guys had a great time watching this video. I hope you learned something new. Try your own glitter swirl method with a peekaboo, and I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Happy crafting, everyone.